Hi everyone, today I'm sharing a project with you using some of Tim Holtz's products that currently are favourites. I've taken some watercolour cardstock and I'm going to ink blend the background with Salvaged Patina Distress ink. You can also use your oxides of course. And what I've done is I've used watercolour cardstock because the ink blends nicely over it and I can layer it up and add water and use other wet media on it. The next thing I did was I did some background stamping using peacock feathers and a text stamp and another large alpha stamp. And then I also come in with a little bit of scorched timber just to add a little bit of brown into the background as well using my text stamp again. Once that's done, I give it a quick dry just so that it's ready to go, and then I pop it into the Typewriter embossing folder from Tim Holtz also. Once that's done, I then go over it with my peacock feathers again so that it picks up the detail of that embossing folder in the background. I don't go too heavily into the centre, I just work mostly around the edges. Give that a quick dry, and then I come back with the scorched timber and frame my card as well with some brown. And that then also obviously adds more definition to the letters that I've picked up on the Typewriter embossing folder. Okay, and once I've done with that, I'll give it another quick dry, and then I'm going to come in and do some splatter just to, again, add interest in the background. First of all, I'm going to start off with my peacock feathers. I'm going to give the background a bit of a dry, Give the background a bit of a dry with my powder tool, and then I'm going to swipe over with embossing ink. And what we're going to use today is the Scorched Timber Embossing Glaze. Now these glazes are translucent, so they will go over existing colours that you've got, and they just provide like a tinted shine to your project. I think they're quite fun to use, and I think again they add a little bit more interest as well to your card. Now it's been working with distress inks, often they stay damper than you realise or wetter than you realise, so it does stick to other places on your card. So I come back with my paintbrush and just wipe off any excess that I don't want to stay on there. So I give the letters a little bit more definition, remove some of the area in the background where it's stuck, and then I heat it until it becomes an enamel, and now it's got a little bit of a glossy finish on a few spots on my card. Now this looks great using any of the teal colours as a patina or your rusty hinge. There's loads of ideas there that you could use your embossing glazes for. Once it's done, I come in with my splatter. So I'm using peacock feathers again so that it picks up as a dark colour on the Salvaged Patina background. And then I'm also going to add in some of the scorched timber. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some white just to lift it. White always lifts it. So I then used a little bit of white fresco paint, but you can use gesso or any paint, acrylic paint, or even the Dina Wakley glossy sprays look great as well. Apologies for that, my phone's dinging in the background. Okay, so once I've finished my splatter, I give it a bit of a wipe, and then the next thing that I do is I apply a little bit of tacky glue around the edges of my card. And you can either use your foil for laminating or your foils that you use with your foil dies, and they will stick to glue. So if I just put a little bit of glue around the edges, by the time I've smeared it out, it's dry enough and tacky enough for it to grab pieces of foil. And I think it's a nice way to lift up a grungy card or a vintage style card by just adding a bit of gold. I always like to just add a little bit of femininity to it and just give it a little bit of shimmer and shine. Otherwise it ends up a little bit too grungy and not always that pretty sometimes. Okay, so once I've done with the gold, it's given a little bit of a frame, a little bit more of interest as well around the edges. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Curiosity Shop stamp set and I'm going to take the Typewriter from it and I stamp it in my VersaFine in one of the brown colours. I think it's Fallen Leaves. And then what I do is I apply a little bit of embossing powder or embossing ink to a couple of the spots on the Typewriter, the edges and the handles, and then apply the embossing glaze to that as well, and that just gives it a little bit of a shine Gives it almost like an enamelled glossy finish, as if it was still in the original enamelled finish in a vintage typewriter. Then I pop my sentiment in, which is included in the set as well. And then the last thing that I do is I pick up my peacock feathers and I ink the edges of another piece of card that's going to be my matte, so that I can lift it again with a little bit of a brighter colour, so that the brown doesn't overtake the card too much. Okay, and when all four sides are done, mount the card together and it's ready to go. And even though this is sped up, it did literally take me 15 minutes to make this card, and it's something nice for a man, I think, or maybe something for a nice card for a teenager. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed my little tutorial and have a lovely day.